Hello, my name is Jeff Farisi, and welcome to the learning module on persuasive communication. This week's learning objectives are to understand the definition of persuasion, recognize the principles and steps necessary to be persuasive, understand the difference between persuasion and manipulation, and to be able to recognize several of the precepts of persuasive communication. Persuasion. What does it mean? Persuasion is a communication process in which the communicator seeks to elicit a desired response from his receiver. It's also a conscious attempt by one individual to change the attitudes, beliefs, or behaviors of another individual or group of individuals through the transmission of some message. It is also a symbolic activity whose purpose is to effect the internalization or voluntary acceptance of a new cognitive state or pattern of an overt behavior through the exchange of messages. And lastly, it is a successful, intentional effort at influencing others' mental state through communication in a circumstance in which the persuadee has some measure of freedom. If we were to boil all of those definitions down, we can come up with a more concise explanation that's a little bit easier to grab hold to. So if we were to simplify it, we would say, persuasion is a communication process where there is intentional effort towards influencing the attitudes, beliefs, or behaviors of an individual or group. Why do we want to persuade? The object of persuasion is to gain influence in order to reinforce a positive opinion, crystallize a latent opinion, or neutralize a hostile opinion. What does that mean? Well, oftentimes it's easier to reinforce the opinions of others who agree with you. You can then use them to go out and influence others. Crystallizing a latent opinion is similar in the sense that you don't need to persuade everyone. You just need to persuade enough people who can then go out and influence others. So you want to choose the right people, and you want to hopefully have them spread that opinion out there for you. One thing that you need to be careful with is that if you ignore whole sections of people, that could be a problem. So you need to make sure that you do at least speak and persuade all of the groups you actually care about. And finally, neutralizing a hostile opinion. It's important to understand that we won't be able to persuade everyone. In those cases, we just want to neutralize the impact of the opposing persuasive thoughts. Professor Robert Cialdini identified 6 principles which can be taught and applied in order to improve an individual's persuasive ability. These include reciprocation, social proof, commitment and consistency, liking, authority, and scarcity. Successful persuaders are able to gain the attention of an audience, provide appropriate motivation, utilize social norms, and to convert motivation into action. How do we motivate? One approach or one method is Abraham Maslow's theory, which is the hierarchy of needs, in which there are a set of needs that act like a pyramid and you cannot move on to the next need until you meet the previous. It's physiological, safety, belonging, esteem, and at the top of the list is self-actualization. When we're trying to persuade and gain influence, we need to ensure that we do not manipulate a person. And there's a clear difference between persuasion and manipulation. Manipulation is the coercion through force to get someone to do something that is not in their own interest. Persuasion is the art of getting people to do things that are in their own best interest that also benefit you. When trying to persuade someone through persuasive communication, there are some key ways that we can think about to help us there. One, we need to know our audience. We then need to know what we want and what the audience wants. We need to carefully select the evidence we want to utilize. We want to keep our arguments simple. We want to listen before we speak. And we want to manage the emotions, both our own and the audience. And lastly, and this often goes overlooked, we want to try to make a personal connection. Here's a great video on 3 keys for persuasive communication.
If you want to become a more persuasive communicator, then you need to focus on 3 things at the same time. I've coached leaders and managers from around the UK and Europe for thousands of hours and I keep encountering the same mistakes. Aristotle said that to influence and persuade people effectively, you need to focus on logos, which is logic, pathos, which is emotion, and ethos, which is credibility. Most people focus on the first one, or at least they think they do. So first, logos or logic. You may feel you're already doing this when you fill your slides with multiple bullet points, tables and graphs, but you're not. That's just information. Logic requires a clear structure which allows your audience to understand your message and follow your argument. Secondly, pathos. You need to also connect with the emotion of your audience. You need to understand their drivers, their ambitions, their hopes and their worries. Remember what's in it for them. So when you share your message, they feel that it is about them and their desires, not you and yours. So here's the third vital ingredient, pathos or credibility. And this is all about you, because your reputation will go before you. So build a reputation for delivering results and for great customer service, and people will respect and like you. When added to your expertise, your influence will massively increase. So here's a tip. Do your homework. There are always times when we lack experience and we lack knowledge. So you must do your research. But if on top of this you use the credibility and authority of others to strengthen your argument, then you will be much more influential. And as a leader, that's definitely worth knowing.
For additional information for the materials covered today, please see these additional references. In addition, please find these discussion questions to help you explore further areas within the discussion we had today. Thank you very much and have a great week.